basically then, what is the difference between the FSSP and the SSPX?
Well, so the FSSP, they were part of the SSPX at one point. They were very much in line with Archbishop Lefebvre on many things that he believed or held positions he held. But then they said, okay, this is too far now. What he's doing is not only illegal against canon law, but they saw that Lefebvre wasn't acting in good faith. He basically was like, it was like a double deal if you think about it, because he tells Rome, okay, I'm going to accept your terms, and we're going to come back into union with Rome, right? And then all of a sudden he makes a quick decision to back out of the whole thing and renege on the deal. And I think, there's people out there that are going to say, well, Rome was never going to give him more than one bishop. They were only going to give him one traditional bishop, and that's all we were going to have, right? And that the traditional faith would have just been stale, like it would have never grown. So they try to make all these excuses, but what it comes down to at the end of the day is, like he did with Pope Paul the Sixth, Archbishop Lefebvre rejected John Paul II's authority. That's what it comes down to, as the Holy Father and the Supreme Pontiff, right? So it's sad because he was given so many chances to come back into union with Rome, and they really went out of their way to try to give him everything he was asking for, and they did give him what he asked for, and then he reneged on the deal. So the FSSP is really what would have been the SSPX had they accepted the deal, and it would have obviously been a much bigger group than it is now. But it's just a shame that Lefebvre didn't repent. He didn't go to the Holy Father before his death and say, hey, I'm sorry for consecrating all those bishops. Please forgive me, because he could have been forgiven. And we know this because Archbishop Thuk, who was a Sedevacantis archbishop who went rogue, there's a whole story about that. We won't get into that tonight. But Archbishop Thuk, he actually ended up coming back into union with Rome. He sent a letter before his death to John Paul II in 1984. It was December of 1984, not too long before I was actually born. And Pope John Paul II showed him mercy. He brought him back into the church. He died in a part of the Catholic Church. So it was a beautiful way for, Archbishop to come back that was schismatic. And Lefebvre could have done the same thing, but he didn't do it. So
the SSPX came first, and then because they wouldn't align with Rome, then the FSSP was formed.